Wise words from Brene Brown. How many of you have seen her TED Talks or read her book? I got some experience in this room. They have been referenced many times during my seminary experience. Apparently, seminarians find her work inspiring as well, as I'm among them. For those of you who don't know, I am studying to be a UU minister. I've taken 6 years to do a 3-year degree program, and here I am in year 6. And the process of going from regular human to minister, who is still definitely human, is an awkward process. There is this idea or image of what a minister is supposed to be like, which is pretty outdated, right? A baritone voice is helpful. White hair, maybe. A wrinkled and wizened face. And so I walk into spaces early on, especially. I walked into spaces where I was taking on this ministerial role with a whole lot of preconceived notions of being perceived as unworthy. And it's not that I was ever mistreated. Well, I won't get into that. There were 1 or 2, for sure. But for the most part, people are fabulous. And especially in something like a chaplaincy role, you walk into the room and say, "Hi, I'm a hospital chaplain. How are you feeling today?" People will treat you as the chaplain, which was sort of shocking to me. I am used to people not being vulnerable with me until there is an established relationship. There's trust between us, where we know that we've been through enough that we can feel comfortable being safe with each other. And as a minister, I am given that trust because of my role, even if we've never met. And I need to maintain a level of readiness to receive that vulnerability. Brene Brown talks a lot about the relationship between vulnerability and courage. But we can't be vulnerable without courage, and we cannot be courageous without vulnerability, because if you're not vulnerable, then it's not a brave thing. If you're not vulnerable to harm, then it doesn't take any courage to do that. Right? So when it comes to authenticity, why is it so hard? Right? Like, why is it so scary to be authentic? I know I'm not the only one in this room who has walked into a space or a group of people and thought, "Oh gosh, can I be me here?" Right? And what does it mean to be me in this space where that is? So that's something that I have had to figure out as a minister. What does it mean to be me as a minister? What kind of minister am I? And this summer, I had a really great experience going to a camping conference center called Ferry Beach. Ferry like the boat, not although I'm sure they have those too. All kinds of ferries. And this is a place that I have been going to since I was a child, actually. I went to camps there as a kid and with my family, with my grandmother. And so I've actually, my father went there as a child as well, and my grandfather was a minister for the summer. Like we have legacy here in this place. So for me to be asked by a conference to be their minister of the week was like a pinnacle experience for me, right? I thrived. I get to preach at this pulpit where my grandfather preached, or where I have seen so many people preach in this beautiful grove of trees outdoors, this outdoor sanctuary. And the people that I was with, the conference called In the Company of Women, We've been meeting since the 70s, and they were lovely. And I had never met most of them. I think maybe one or two people there I had met before. So I was new to them, and they were new to me. We're all like, huh. They really liked the minister of the week that they had before. They were like, I don't know who this new person is. I don't know if we're gonna like her, because they really liked the previous person. And I decided to just show up as me. And I think I had the courage to do that. I had the courage to show up fully myself, because this was a place that I felt I belonged in. Whether this conference of people liked me or not, I knew that I belonged in this place. And that I was comfortable enough. I had been ministerial long enough to feel comfortable in the role. And those paired together, I didn't feel as vulnerable. Or I felt more brave. Turns out they were lovely. They liked me, I liked them. It was a fantastic week. And I think that I walked away from that week feeling like I had embodied my ministerial self more than I ever had in any other setting, which was a great milestone in this process. And I thought, how do I bring this back to Nashua? How do I do this in every area of my ministerial life? And I think part of it had to do with the authenticity of the people that I was with, too. It was a small group. And so I got to, and we had meals together and stuff. So there was a lot of getting to know each other very quickly. And no one there was faking it. You know what I mean? Like, you could go to a spiritual conference and there's people that are like really trying. You know what I mean? Even if you've never been to a spiritual conference, I think you know what I'm getting at, right? People who are trying to come off as being more than they are in any way in a space. You can kind of sense it. And then it feels less comfortable to be oneself. If they're not comfortable being their self, is it okay for me to be myself? So how do you find yourself in a place, right? So there's these elements, safety and vulnerability and trust and courage and a sense of belonging. Do I belong here? And some of that is external and some of it is internal. Brene Brown in her research found that for those of you who don't know, she studies what she calls wholehearted people. What does it mean to live a wholehearted life? And she found in her research that the only difference between people who felt like they belonged and were worthy of love and belonging, and the people who did not feel like they belonged in any space and didn't feel worthy of love and belonging, the only difference between those two groups was that the first group believed that they belonged. If they felt inside themselves that they were worthy of love, then they were more receptive to that love. And if they felt like they belonged in a place, they were more receptive to the feeling of belonging. And I realized that that's what was going on for me at Ferry Beach. This is the place that I felt like I belonged. And so when I met the people there, they seemed more authentic. Which, I mean, they were fabulous people, but I don't think they're more authentic than you are. I think that I was more receptive to that authenticity because I was more authentic myself. And so we get into this like cycle, like where does it start? Chicken and the egg kind of a thing. And so one informs the other. Those of us who feel like we can be brave in space make room for people who don't. I have this friend in seminary. We started together. We started the same semester pre-pandemic. And this person is loud and joyful and enthusiastic about everything. I mean, when we text, there's at least 5 emojis and 10 exclamation points in every text that they send me. And I love it. And to watch this friend of mine become their own version of a minister with that sort of Muppet personality that just spreads so much joy in the world, gives me permission to be a little more of that myself. You know, like I might not be quite as Muppet as this friend of mine. There's definitely some Muppet in there, but I also got like the motorcycle boots. You know, like I could be my ministerial self in this space. And so when we are more authentically ourselves, it's not that we give permission to people, because we always have permission to be ourselves, right? It's more that we encourage, we give other people courage to be their authentic selves as well. I have also had the experience, I am still working on this, of course, as we are all works in progress, but younger in life, I was very self-conscious and very guarded and did not share vulnerably with almost anyone ever. Everyone was kept at a distance because I had been hurt early on. And I think that we often wear these masks. This concept of masking has come up, as some of you have heard that term, where we're going to pretend that everything's okay, or pretend that I belong even if I don't feel like I do, or pretend I'm capable in this situation when I don't know what I'm doing. There's masking, and we wear masks for lots of reasons. And some of it is social pressure. You know, I have this identity, so I guess I'm supposed to, like, I wore suits when I was a chaplain at the hospital because all the other chaplains wore suits, and no one told me to wear a suit. I just didn't know what to wear, so I just wore a suit. I was masking. I'm not really a suits kind of. Or, you know, what is a good spouse? What is a good wife? What is a good mother? You know, all of these identities that have stereotypes that get thrown on us, and we say, gosh, I guess I got to do that even if it doesn't fit. That's masking. And we do this for social pressure and also trauma. And we heard some about trauma earlier and its devastating effects. I know all of you have a story that would break my heart if I heard it. We are all complex people. And we are born whole. Our theology tells us, right? Our Unitarian Universalist theology says this: we are born whole. We are born perfect. We don't believe in original sin here. We are born innocent, like a masterpiece painting. Dark over here, light over there, colorful, dull, like we are complex. And then we get into the world, and the world is messy. And hurt people hurt people. Whether it's a bully on the playground or school system that squashed your creativity, or an abusive relationship, or living in a war zone, like all of this is mud flung at our masterpiece paintings. And the journey of finding our authentic self is the process of restoring that painting. What in here is mud and grime, and what in here is the original paint for it. And one of the things I love about Unitarian Universalism is this insistence that we are all restorable. Come, whoever you are, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again, come, right? That every person can be restored to a masterpiece, and it takes work. and it takes courage. And it takes vulnerability. And when we get to share those paintings, our masterpieces with each other, the world is more rich and more colorful. We are in the middle of Rosh Hashanah, which is a time when our Jewish siblings reflect on the things that they've done in the past year and say, maybe I could have done better. And I think that that's part of being an authentic person. Our authentic person is never static, never one thing, not one thing at all, right? That we change over our lifetimes. We come into different jobs, different caretaking roles. We move to a different city, take on a new hobby, and parts of our identity shift and change. And so we have an evolving authenticity, showing different parts of ourselves in different places. A few years ago, my spouse and I got tickets to a demolition derby at the local state fair. It was the three-county fair out in Western Massachusetts. They have a regular demolition derby and a school bus demolition derby. And it may not be your thing, but in the right mood, I love that kind of thing. So a few years ago, Nick and I got these tickets. It was in the evening, so you could see the sparks fly when they smash into each other. But that same day was the anniversary of the building of the Buddhist Peace Pagoda in Leverett, Massachusetts, which we also have a relationship to. They're part of our community. So we spent the day at this Peace Pagoda. Ceremony and incense and singing and being with monks, and we were driving home and we were like, oh, we have enough time to get dinner and then go to the demolition derby. We decided not to go that year. We did go a couple years later and had a great time. But we have different parts of ourselves, right? Like my authentic self totally enjoyed our day at the Peace Pagoda. And my authentic self totally enjoyed the demolition derby when we went, later year. And it's okay to be different parts of ourselves in different spaces. It doesn't mean we're inauthentic. We are complex paintings. Different parts, light and dark, colorful and dull. We can add to our paintings. We can chip away the grime. And this community aims to be a community of faith that encourages us, a community of courage, right? It's part of your mission statement. Be a place that fosters courage and curiosity with each other and with ourselves and our spiritual journeys. So I hope that as you go out into the world today, you act a little more brave and encourage each other to be more authentic. And it might upset you. That's the danger, right? I know I have lost friends, even family members, who don't talk to me anymore. Because my process of becoming a more authentic me was no longer someone that they wanted to spend time with. And that is a massive loss. I won't understate that. It also faded with time. And being my authentic self, I'll speak from my own experience, it draws people to me that like my authentic self. And then I have a life full of people who support me and are there for me and help me to be my authentic self and call me out when I step out, right? When I forget myself, when I err. And so as you go out into the world, I hope that you remember that this is a place where you can be vulnerable. I hope that you feel that. I hope that you feel safe in this place. And if you don't, I hope this can be a place where you can practice. And that we are worthy of that vulnerability. May it be so.